You're in Japan?
Let's meet up with Kalizawa.
Karuizawa?
Bamba! Wow! Delicious! I want to stay more.
Let's all come back together.
Yeah!
Miles ahead! Stay group!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tokyo Skytree. Be awestruck by the panoramic view. There are so many other fun things to do after you've enjoyed the view. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go, let's enjoy. This is Tokyo Skytree.
We do our jobs with sincerity and integrity to make a better living environment for the people and our society. Today's work, tomorrow's heritage. Shimizu Corporation.
Potenza.
Welcome to Channel Japan. I'm Maki Arai.
And I'm Makiko Utsuda.
Every week we bring you the freshest information out of Japan right here from a studio in Tokyo.
From the economy to culture and even foods, if you want to find out what's happening in Japan right now, this is where you'll find it.
And these are topics for today. From World Business Satellite, big companies or small companies which offer a better environment for parents raising children, one indicator points away.
Also from World Business Satellite, a report on the spread and possibilities of virtual currencies.
From Takumi, the developer of a new technique to make a traditional craft.
And in Dream Weavers, a metal workshop in downtown Tokyo that switched from making components for electrical products to world-class miniature dollhouses.
So let's get started. First, we have a report from TV Tokyo's World Business Satellite.
Yes, this time we'll be looking at an indicator in Japan called Kigyo Kodakara Ritsu, which roughly translates to corporate child-caring rate. But have you heard of it?
It's the first time I've heard of it. So what exactly does it measure?
Well, I'm sure you've heard about an indicator for the number of children women can have in their lifetime. And in contrast, this indicator is a measure of the number of children each company worker, male or female, can have during employment.
So how does that help?
Well, with it, you can see if a company provides an environment supportive of employees who are raising children. And it's actually already being used by companies in Fukui, Shizuoka, Saga, and other prefectures to measure what's called a work-life balance.
Well, I think generally big companies tend to be seen as places where there are proper systems in place to balance work and raising children. So is that true?
Well, yes, in a sense. It's been said that maintaining a work-life balance is much easier at bigger companies just because of their they have more capacity in terms of organizational structure. But the latest survey shows that actually it's smaller companies rather than the big ones that have a higher child-caring rate.
That's surprising.
Isn't it? So why is that? Take a look.
In Japan, a growing number of companies are promoting greater participation of women in the workplace. Oryx Group is one of them. 30% of its women employees are so-called working mothers. The company has come up with various support measures such as child care leave and assistance in hiring babysitters. The human resources manager herself is also a working mother.
I think that you can't ask for a more well-designed system than the one we have in place. In the company, we have lots of working mothers, and they are nothing out of the ordinary. People say it's an amazing environment to have so many women working.
But looking at the corporate child-caring rate, Oryx's number is 1.19. It's below the national average.
Honestly, I don't know the reason. I wonder why. I'm leaving now.
This is Haruka Yano of the finance department. Taking advantage of a system of reduced working hours for parents, she leaves early to pick up her child at a nursery. She says she's blessed with understanding bosses and colleagues right now, but can't completely dispel her worries about changes such as a reassignment common at big firms.
I think the most important aspect is the awareness that people around have, especially among the men.
What does the corporate child-caring rate reveal about businesses? The person who came up with it is Naoki Atsumi, a research director at Toray Corporate Business Research.
Big firms are often said to have systems that make child raising easy, but there are also companies with long work hours and an environment difficult for parents. We believe culture has a much bigger influence than systems on the behavior of employees. Corporate culture is not that easy to see, so we developed the child-caring rate as an indicator to quantify that.
So what kind of company has a high child-caring rate? Generating a child-caring rate of 2.15, among the highest in the country, is NTN Corporation. The company manufactures a car part called a drive shaft. With 259 employees, it is a small company.
2, 3.
A 2-year-old and one on the way. It's easy to work here because everyone understands.
Why is work satisfaction high among the parents here? This is the president, Yoshitake Nakashima. He walks around the entire company twice every day as part of his daily routine.
Any problems? Is it going smoothly? How are things? Their facial expressions, how they look, whether they look worn out.
He says if employees have a concern, it's important to help them resolve that right away. But this company actually didn't have a parent-friendly working environment from the beginning. Ten years ago, Kazumi Natsumi joined the company just as it was being set up. After learning she was pregnant, she looked for someone to discuss it with, and the first person she approached was the president, sitting in a room on the same floor.
Knocking on the door of the president's office and discussing it with him took courage. But he was always around, so approaching him was relatively easy.
In that way, Ms. Natsume was able to work with the company to create a system of childcare leave and reduced working hours from scratch. The average child-caring rate of companies with 500 or more employees is 1.22. But the number increases as the size of companies shrinks, with those with 10 to 29 employees reaching 1.38. Mr. Atsumi explains the reason.
Small companies adjust their systems for their people. Big companies make people adjust to their systems.
Located in the same Shizuoka prefecture with a high child-caring rate of 2.17 is a home renovation company, Ichimaru Homing. With 20 employees, it's a small company, but sales have doubled in the past 5 years. The president, Yoshiki Matsumura, says the driving force has been the power of women.
People aren't coming into the construction field. In my company, women are unmistakably becoming central.
The crack team behind the company's strong financial results is this.
3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3. Not yet.
All of the women employees are actually mid-career recruits. Most say they had concerns about balancing childcare and work and moved to this company because it understands their needs.
Let's say someone is called by her child's school and has to leave. We can say, I know it's tough, so go home early.
Mika Kasuya is a single mother of 2 children. Seven years ago, she quit her job as a cleaner and joined this company. This is one of the company's sites, a showroom. Ms. Kasuya says her strength is seeing things from the customer's perspective.
I can talk casually with mothers who are also raising children, and about lots of things. There are times when our conversations get really lively.
Last year, Ms. Kasuya finally built her dream home.
Are you okay with curry?
Balancing work and raising children, Ms. Kasuya says every day is fulfilling. The company says some women joined inspired by employees such as her. In the corporate world, people are having fewer children. Improving systems together with cultures may be necessary.
My head is twirling round among the stars. My eyes can view the earth now from afar. My feet are flowing miles above my yard. My hands can touch the clouds, it's not that hard.
At SMBC, we are growing with Asia, and we've made a commitment to this community that has given us so much. Whether financing infrastructure projects or delivering customized services to our many clients, we will continue to serve Asia with speed and efficiency. Rising with Asia, SMBC, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation.
Sasuke, a new type of sports entertainment program conquering the world.
It's about human achievement and people's passions, and I think that relates to almost everybody.
From Japan to the world, Ninja Warrior, Tokyo Broadcasting System.
next we have?
Next, we'll be looking at virtual currencies.
Virtual currencies. Well, I know a Bitcoin exchange in Japan recently closed, and there's somewhat of a negative image of virtual currencies here. But what exactly is a virtual currency?
Well, virtual currencies are also called digital currencies, and there aren't any physical bills or coins, so they exist only as data, but have a monetary value that's traded over the internet. And the currency in circulation and records of trades are strictly managed through sophisticated programs.
Well, what's the difference with electronic money?
Well, with electronic money, you generally use physical currency to charge an account, so you can use that for transactions. But the electronic money itself isn't in circulation, while in contrast, virtual currencies are in circulation, much like cash.
What's the advantage of virtual currencies?
Well, virtual currencies are used for economic activities such as paying for online services, and they don't go through financial institutions and also can be remitted over the internet, which means transactions are almost free and also instantaneous.
Really? That sounds great.
It does, doesn't it? And so in Japan, the government has started working to regulate virtual currencies, and there are now moves to build out an environment to facilitate their use. And we take a look at some of the latest initiatives.
This is a condominium in Suzuka, Mie Prefecture. Junko Maeda is a mother of 2 children. Using an iPad, she's talking to her eldest daughter, Nana, who's studying in Canada.
I'm sending it now. When you get it, give me a call.
Yes.
Ms. Maeda recently started sending money to Nana using the virtual currency Bitcoin. She scans a QR code that contains Nana's account details with a specialized application. Inputs the amount of 100,000 yen and hits the send button to complete the transaction. Three minutes later.
Hello?
Yes? Did you get it?
Yeah, I received it. Thank you.
Go buy a smartphone.
Yeah, I'll look for a good one.
Ms. Maeda says she started using Bitcoin because she was drawn by the low remittance fee.
Several thousand yen became several yen. The remittance fee is really low.
Previously, she used Japan Post Bank. Sending 100,000 yen cost 2,500 yen, in addition to Nana having to pay a fee to receive the money on her end. In contrast, the remittance fee for Bitcoin was only 6 yen, which includes what's paid to the application developer. An office building in Shibuya, Tokyo. One of the tenants here is ReguPress, which developed the Bitcoin application CoinCheck. Founding member Yusuke Otsuka says he believes the biggest characteristic of Bitcoin is in its remittance function.
Around the world, for people who want to send money outside, overseas, it's an extremely low-cost, easy and convenient method. It's a way to send small amounts quickly, so in that sense, I think a really new market will develop.
So why does using Bitcoin mean lower remittance fees? Conventional overseas remittances go through multiple financial institutions, so several % of the amount sent is charged. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is encrypted and sent over the internet, making the transaction free in principle. With the aim of popularizing Bitcoin, Mr. Otsuka has taken a new step. He visits non-profit organization Good Neighbors Japan Fumie Iijima is the PR director.
Today, I'd like to talk to you about donations with Bitcoin. There's a QR code here, and you scan it. And here, you input 100 yen, for example, and tap the button to make a donation.
Using a Bitcoin application, users can make small donations without remittance fees and hassle-free.
100 yen gives it a donation box feel. It's good.
This organization has been providing support for children living in poverty in Asia and Africa from 12 years ago. It was also active in regions hit by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in northeastern Japan. Ms. Iijima says she feels there are many advantages to using Bitcoin for donations.
We've gotten inquiries from overseas groups and individuals who want to donate to and support Good Neighbors Japan. There are difficulties such as bank transfer fees. In terms of disadvantages, there really aren't any.
Currently, the company is setting up a system for 8 organizations, including NPOs, to make it possible for people to make donations with Bitcoins. The use of Bitcoins for donations is spreading. One example is a movement by the people of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula, using QR codes to ask for international support. How much more will the momentum grow for virtual currencies such as Bitcoin? Economist Yukio Noguchi points out that the technology underlying virtual currencies is revolutionary.
There's a possibility that the system of currencies that we have now will change in an extremely big way with the arrival of virtual currencies. It's more than possible that people won't use the remittance system of banks and use virtual currencies instead.
Mr. Noguchi says the spread of virtual currencies may become a threat to existing financial institutions. At the same time,
banks aren't just sitting back. Plans are already underway for banks themselves to introduce virtual currencies. Banks will create their own system of virtual currencies that people can use when sending money overseas, as well as within the country. If banks take action, there's actually a possibility that existing virtual currencies get crushed. I don't know which way it will go.
in fact, 40 banks, including Citibank in the US, Barclays, and Goldman Sachs, formed a consortium in September last year to study virtual currencies. Japanese megabanks are also participating. How do banks plan to address the rise of virtual currencies? Yasuhiro Sato, chairman of the Japanese Bankers Association, explains.
Virtual currencies themselves are not bad. They have a useful aspect in improving convenience in society. I'm not in a position to talk specifically about what kinds of services will become possible, but from the viewpoint of settlements, there is a sufficient chance that they will lead to greater convenience.
The technologies underlying virtual currencies are said to be revolutionary and are already starting to move society in a big way.
The excitement of driving through the unknown. Rent a car to travel freely throughout Japan. Enjoy your travel on your own time, in your own way. Create your own adventure. Seek out beauty. Wow. Drive the experience. Discover Japan. Anytime, any season. Nippon Rent-A-Car.
For the world, with the world. 360-degree business innovation. Mitsui & Company.
Asia, the world growth driver. Japan, China, ASEAN countries. With more reporters and contributors across the region, Nikkei Asian Review can give you a view of business in Asia from the inside. Nikkei Asian Review, available in print, online, and mobile devices.
You're watching Channel Japan. Next is a segment called Takumi from Science View, a program produced by NHK.
Takumi literally means artisan in Japanese, and it's a word often used to describe craftsmen with exceptional skills.
So, who is our Takumi today?
Yes, today we'll be introducing a person who came up with an innovative way to make traditional Nambu ironware from Iwate Prefecture in northeastern Japan. But are you familiar with Nambu ironware?
Yes, actually, I have one myself. I got it as a gift from my friend, and I personally think it tastes more mild when I pour tea with the Nambu ironware.
Really? So you are familiar with it? That's interesting, because there actually was a time when it fell out of favor because many people thought the design was old, was too heavy to use. I'm sure it's heavy, isn't it? But in the past several years, some colorful designs have come out onto the market, and it's starting to gain fans around the world, especially in Europe.
Yes, but at the same time, I know that taking care of Nambu ironware can be a hassle because of rust.
You need to do things to prevent it?
I have to wipe it right away after I wash it.
See, that is a hassle. The surfaces will get rusted over time. But the Takumi we'll be introducing today came up with an entirely new way to prevent that. So what kind of innovations did he add to a 900-year-old traditional craft? Take a look.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm in Oshu, Iwate Prefecture. What you see here is a Nambu Tekki cast ironware, a traditional craftwork of the region. Today we will meet a Takumi who has made an innovative enhancement to the manufacturing process of this very traditional ironware.
Hello, I'm Michelle. Nice to meet you. Our Takumi or innovator today is Hideharu Oikawa. He represents the 5th generation of a venerable Nambu Tekki cast ironware manufacturer. He showed us their prized ironware. Nambu Tekki cast ironware has a long history, said to date back about 900 years. We went into the factory to see how it is made. Nambu Tekki ironware is made by pouring melted iron into a mold. After it is cooled, the ironware is taken out of the mold and the surface is beaten and ground smooth. It's starting to look like a kettle. Is it finished already?
No, not yet. There's still an important process to go through. Rust proofing.
This process will make the kettle rust resistant. Without it, the iron will turn red from rust. The traditional process is to place the kettle in burning charcoal and fire the iron at around 900 degrees Celsius. With this, the surface of the iron bonds with oxygen in the air and creates an iron oxide coating. This is called black rust. Will this process make the kettle more rust-resistant then?
Coating the surface of the iron with black rust will help prevent red rust. Black rust doesn't easily dissolve in water. So if you surface the kettle with it, it helps prevent red rust. So you protect against one rust with another.
But with use, red rust can still appear despite the rust-proofing. The oxidized iron coating can come off if you scrub the kettle with a stiff brush, for example. So the Takumi came up with a completely new anti-rust treatment method. This is the device he uses. It's an electric kiln to heat the ironware. On closing the lid, it becomes airtight. Here comes the important part. First, nitrogen gas is injected into the kiln and the oxygen is expelled. This ensures that oxidation doesn't occur even if the temperature rises. When it gets really hot, low concentration oxygen is injected. With low concentration oxygen, it forms a thin iron oxide coating. Why make the coating thin? These are enlarged images of oxide coating. The thickness of conventional coating is 100 micrometers, whereas the Takumi's coating is only 10 micrometers, 1/10 the thickness. Conventional thick oxide coating cracks easily because it cannot cope with the iron expanding and contracting under heat. The Takumi's thin oxide coating is very supple and can withstand the expansion and contraction of the iron. This was how the Takumi created his highly rust-resistant Nambu Teki ironware. But how did he manage to develop his new method? After he had tried and failed many times, in the end, his rust-resistant Nambu Teki was achieved by chance. He asked Iwate University to carry out studies on the ironware, which found that its iron oxide coating was very thin. After Professor Yashiro's tests, he focused on whether the amount of oxygen in fact held the key. When he filled the kiln with nitrogen, while also reducing the oxygen level, he found it produced a very thin coating.
I was amazed. The iron oxide coating is to protect it from rust, so I thought the thicker the better. It never crossed my mind that a thin coating could work better.
By developing rust-resistant ironware, he could then create a pan that could fry food at high temperatures. Renowned local French-style chef Yasukatsu Ito is a devotee of Oikawa's pans. He cooked one of his specialties for us. You can see that it's cooked to golden brown perfection. The skin is so crispy, and yet it's so tender inside. It's delicious.
The beauty of the iron pan is that it gives a nice crisp skin on the outside, but also cooks the food right through, quickly and very evenly.
The Nambu Teki ironware tradition was handed down from the many local masters who preceded us. It was not an everyday item so well suited to today's lifestyle, perhaps. So I tried to make some adjustments to the original products to help make the tradition fit in better with our modern lifestyles. But I strongly believe that my ironware could never have been created without the traditional methods behind it.
Unlimited answers to unlimited questions. Materials can change our lives. Toray.
Oryx is driving business in Asia through leases, investments, real estate development, energy businesses, and more. Making business more dynamic and fast-paced than ever. Oryx.
The sport truck. New Mitsubishi Triton.
Drive at Earth Mitsubishi Motors.
TBS is a multimedia entertainment company stationed in Tokyo, Japan. As a leading commercial broadcaster in Japan since 1955, we provide a variety of programs to over 170 countries and regions. TBS, delivering quality programs to the world.
You're watching Channel Japan. Next up is Dreamweavers, in which we introduce the technologies and techniques of small Japanese companies.
Yes, this time we show you the latter half of our two-part series on a family of 3 making intricate miniature items for dollhouses that are highly regarded overseas.
Well, I know that the company Kawai Kogyosho used to be a subcontractor making components for major electrical device makers.
That's right, and it was originally a metal workshop in downtown Tokyo with more than 10 employees. And after the bursting of the bubble economy, orders declined sharply and workers left, leaving the president in a bind. And that's when he decided to change the direction of the business. And visiting his family of 3 making realistic miniatures is creative director Junichi Tanaka. So take a look.
First, take a look at this room. Can you tell? This is actually a 1/12 scale miniature world. Look at the way the kitchen is made. Doesn't it give off a feeling of warmth? What are their impressions after seeing these miniatures up close?
Look, it's so cute.
Amazing.
The miniatures that surprise everyone who sees them are made by a metal workshop in downtown Tokyo called Kawai Kogyosho. This is the president, Yukio Kawai. He accurately recreates everyday things at 1/12 their actual size. The company's employees are his wife, Tomoko, and his daughter, Asami. The 3 of them work together to make the items. Kawai Kogyosho applies its metal processing techniques to create cooking equipment, which is rare around the world. Visiting the company is Junichi Tanaka, who holds the title of Creative Director. Why did a metal workshop in downtown Tokyo start making miniatures? We learn about the challenge taken on by this family of 3. Arakawa Ward, Tokyo. It's a place where the atmosphere of the early 20th century remains throughout. Kawai Kogyosho has been processing metal here for more than 50 years. We're taken inside the shop they call Mini Chuban.
Amazing.
There are more than 500 types of miniature products. All of them are originals made by Kawai Kogyosho.
They're amazing! These! There are copper ones and stainless steel ones too. The same materials as the real ones.
Yes, they're the same as real cookware.
Take a look. As with real cookware, there are nails called rivets to hold the parts in place, only smaller. How are they actually made? We're shown to the back of the workshop. This should be interesting. First, 1.1 millimeter holes are bored into the main section of a wok. Next, using rivets 1 millimeter in diameter, the handle is attached. How small. The rivets are pressed and crushed in from the inside.
By bending this and dyeing it black, this becomes a wok. I think using glue to put them together would be easier.
This is a miniature, but by making it in this way,
I believe it can become real.
I don't think of miniatures as things that are just made.
By putting my many thoughts and ideas in making them, I think each one comes alive as a real miniature.
Ultimately, I guess I like what my husband makes.
What does the daughter Asami think of such parents?
In this day and age, I don't know if people support their husbands the way she does. She doesn't do anything for herself. Everything is for my father and the company.
The three of us all want the same things.
To make our customers happy, to improve the level of perfection. We all have the same feeling. That's why it works.
This trio is not just detail-oriented, but also makes things with passion. And that's why they captivate people everywhere. Why did Kawai Kogyosho, a metal workshop, start making dollhouses in the first place? The company was founded in 1962 by the current president's father, Shigeo. At the time, they made components for electrical products. They worked as subcontractors and sub-subcontractors for major manufacturers.
It was a time when all you needed to do is to do the work that came in well. We made things without brand names.
When the country entered the age of rapid economic growth, the factory became extremely busy. The number of employees exceeded 10. Yukio married Tomoko when he was 23 years old. He joined the factory his father ran from that time and later took over the business. In his personal life, he and his wife had 2 children, and everything was going smoothly. But in the 1990s, the bubble economy burst, casting a shadow over workshops in the downtown area as well.
The amount of work we got gradually shrank. Employees also started quitting and we stopped getting calls. Orders stopped coming in.
On top of that, customers started shifting their production centers to China, where labor costs were lower. For Mr. Kawai, it was a time when he hit rock bottom. His wife, Tomoko, watched the situation from close by.
I knew that my husband at the time was thinking about something. I could feel he was determined to do something, to overcome the situation somehow. I didn't want him to think too much and go crazy, because that would be a problem.
Kawai Kogyosho was at its lowest point. But it was something that Tomoko said out of the blue that changed the fate of the company. I want you to make me a small cooking pot.
I was finished raising children and stepping into the world of my hobby, so thinking it would take his mind off things, I decided to ask him a favor.
It was a request from Tomoko, who was taking classes on making dollhouses, a hobby of hers. He had never tried his hand at it. What awaited him?
I thought and thought about how to do it. I made it, and it made her happy. It was the first time I truly understood the feeling of making something that makes people happy.
The first pot that Mr. Kawai made is still kept with care at Kawai Kogyosho.
It's deeply moving. This pot is what gave birth to everything here. I'm sure you're grateful to it.
A pot that he made at the request of his wife earned praise from people around. It was then that a certain thought began building in Tomoko.
I thought how happy we would be if we could live on this. It was about making things, so I felt he might just do it. But for me and my husband, it was a gamble.
In 2005, they embarked on a major transformation from a metal workshop to a maker of miniatures. They set up a website and took on the challenge of selling things over the internet. They also participated in events across Japan, traveling around to sell their miniatures. From morning to night, both of them were absorbed in making miniatures. Because of that, they often fell ill.
They pushed themselves too hard, so they'd get taken to hospital, and medical exams would come back with red flags. All the time.
So their daughter, Asami, who was working in Kyoto as a gardener, quit her job and started supporting her parents. With her help, the miniature making business got on track smoothly. Kawai Kogyosho's works have become indispensable among dollhouse makers.
They're very intricate. And because they buy real things which they use to make the items, they're very realistic.
Their reputation spread across the seas as well. Their products gained such fame in the UK and the US, which are considered the centers of dollhouse making, that their products quickly sell out. The Kawais have earned success around the world. What does he think about when making miniatures now?
When I make dollhouses and hand them to customers, they give me smiles in return. It's a joy that I've never experienced before. I can't put it into words.
A small world made by a small metal workshop in downtown Tokyo. What's made is packed with the family of three's big hope of seeing the smiles of customers. That is the craftsmanship of Kawai Kogyosho. Later, creative director Junichi Tanaka presents a video he made to cheer on the company. Made small, they become visible. The love and dreams that were hidden. Made small, they show their faces. The gentleness and thoughtfulness quietly concealed. Packed inside 1/12th scale miniatures are full-sized hopes. Kawai Kogyosho of Miniature Kitchens. Mr. Tanaka says he wants this family of 3 to take the miniatures they make even further across the world.
After getting this message, we want to face every day with a new feeling and not waste even a single day.
It just makes me so happy.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Channel Japan. We have much more in store for you, so join us again next week.